everyone, it's Margaret with Creative Stamping with Margaret. Today's card features the Changing Leaves bundle, and that actually is a great bundle because you get the stamp set, the dies, plus it's a hybrid set. So if you're not familiar with the hybrid sets, it comes with the embossing folder and the dies will actually fit into the embossing folder. You can place them in. They will lock in place. Of course, I'm not using it that way today, but you would put them in, lock it in place, and then close it, and it will cut and emboss your paper at the same time. But it's a wonderful set, and this is one of the cards that is featured in the August 2024 card class, where we're doing wow cards and cards that are fancy fold. So I thought this made a beautiful card, and so I'm here to share it with you. If you ordered a kit to go, you will receive all the materials in that kit to make this card. You will need to pull out your Changing Leaves stamp set, stamp your leaves, but the texture embossing, and then the die cut for your sentiment has been done, but you'll need to stamp that sentiment as well. The inks that we're using Calypso Coral, Pretty Peacock, and Wild Wheat. The other materials, just so you know why I pull those over, the dimensions and all the materials that you need for this card are in the description of this video, so you'll be able to get the score lines, the cuts, etc. And so I'm not going to spend time going into that. But for our card base, we have the Pretty Peacock. Then we also have another panel of the Pretty Peacock because that will be our front panel. We have a piece of basic white, and that basic white is for the interior, where you will can write a little note. So pull that to the side. You'll need 2 strips of wild wheat, and these are 1 inch by 4 inch, or 1 inch by 4 inch. And then 2 strips of Designer Series paper. This Designer Series paper is the Thoughtful Expressions Designer Series paper. I just looked around and I don't have it handy, but it is a beautiful Designer Series paper. And so I have cut 2 pieces of that. You'll need a piece of Calypso Coral to do texture embossing on, and then another panel of the Thoughtful Expressions Designer Series paper. And we're using this to die cut and emboss this leaf. So I will show you how we go about doing that. And then the embellishments that we're using, the 2023-2025 in color opaque sparkle gems. Of course, you can substitute that with a variety of embellishments. And then for the leaves, I have a 5 inch by 5.5 inch piece of paper that I'm going to do the stamping on. Now, some folks are very successful in aligning. I die cut a piece of cardstock and are good at lining this up and stamping in there. I'm not in where you've die cut because that stamp would align inside of that. I'm not good at that, so I'm not going to demonstrate that. There may be other videos that show how to do that, but that is not what I'm focusing on today. I'm going to show you another way that I find works very well. So let's go ahead and do our stamping. I'm bringing in the wild wheat, and for the largest leaf, I am stamping it with the wild wheat. Now, when you get these photopolymer stamps, be sure to condition the stamp because they do have oils on them from the production, and that's why sometimes they don't want to take ink. Some people use an eraser, other things. I actually just run mine under a little water with a real mild soap and clean them that way. And then I'll often put Versamark on it and stamp a few times, and that seems to help. But so first, I'm going to stamp my large leaf. And of course, the wild wheat, it looks green at first, but as it dries, the color changes to more of that sort of golden wheat color. So don't be alarmed. Let's pull in the Calypso Coral and let's stamp the maple looking leaf. Oh, I think I might have got that too close to the, oh, it's okay. I was going to say too close to the edge for the die cut, but I think that'll work out. If it doesn't, we'll just do another one. But I think that will work. And then next is the pretty peacock and the long, slender leaves. And I like to hold it for a few seconds just to make sure that ink transfers, because there's a lot of what I call cuts in the leaves. So we just want to do that. Now, as I said, some people are successful at lining them up so that they can cut all of this at once. I'm going to cut it all at once, but not as one sheet. So what I'm like to do is I just take my paper snips and I'm just going to cut around the leaves. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, what an extra step. But I found this went faster for me than trying to line everything else up to get it in place. I'm just not real proficient at that. And I was like, other people may be like me and like to see a different method for stamping and die cutting multiple images that are on one die together. And I'm just going around so that these dies are connected quite close on that die, and you'll see that as I put these pieces in there. So it just helps with the overlap. So what I do next is I pull my die in, and now I'm just to line things up just like you would do when you normally die cut. And of course I've got the Post-it note tape, as you see. Painter's tape works well also. Let me get this part down there. Now we will pull in our, what I call maple leaf. We'll just I'll lay this in here. There again, we just line that up. Make sure the stem is in there. Oops, I keep hitting it with my finger. And then last but not least is our green leaf. And this, I'm going to cut that point off because it's overlapping into that. You can see how close those are on the die. And that's where I had problems when I cut the, just die cut the outline to half because they were so close. I had a lot of problems, and I tried using a stamp positioner tool, and there again, they're so close that when I inked, I would hit the other stamps, and just really wasn't real successful. So then, this is ready now to go through our die cutting machine. But I'm going to set this to the side because I have already prepped ahead of time and die cut those 3 pieces. So this is how I use that same method, and this is how they turned out. So we have those set ready to go. Then the next thing we want to do, I need to pull back in. I'm going to pull this off. Take those off that I just taped on. And as you see, I have that piece of the Thoughtful Expressions Designer Series paper, and I want to cut one of these leaves. And I want to also texture emboss it. So what I'm doing is I'm just laying, let me make sure I get the right side. I have to make sure I get the side that it pops in. And this is it. Let me pull that tape off. So there, it's, well, it's not popping because of the tape. So our label, the side that the Stampin' Up label is on, let me check the other side. For some reason, that does not feel right. But it is right. So it is the side that has the label. Wait, there it is. I just didn't have it right. There's the little pop in that I was looking for. So now I'm going to take this piece of paper, the Thoughtful Expressions. I'm going to place it over that leaf. We're going to close this, and I am going to run this through the machine. Now, when this comes out, we have our textured and embossed leaf, and it's all die cut at the same time. So I just, to reiterate, you place the dies on the side that has the Stampin' Up logo, and you'll just turn them, line them up, and then they just sort of lock in place. If they don't lock like mine did the first time, it's because I don't have it in the proper spot. Then we're going to take the embossing folder. This time we're using the Changing Leaves embossing folder, or actually it's not Changing Leaves, it's the Leaf Fall 3D embossing folder, and that's what I texture embossed for the background using the Thoughtful Expressions. And there again, I aligned. You're able to do both at the same time. So you'll just put that in. There again, run that through your embossing die cutting machine, and you'll come out with your 2 embossed pieces. I've done these ahead of time just to save time. So now let's pull in the card and let's start assembling. We have all of our pieces ready. So you're going to take your cardstock and fold it at the 5 1/2. So fold it in half because this is 4 1/4 by 11. Then we're going to take at that first score line and fold it back. Then the second, the other score line. So that's why it is a Z fold. So here we have our Z fold. So on this little panel here, we're going to add adhesive and close that panel up. So that opening will be closed. And I'm using a strong adhesive. I'm using the Stampin' Seal Plus. You could use the multi-purpose liquid glue, tear and tape, but we're going to just put that down. Then the next thing that I found was easier to do. Oh, you know what? I cut the wrong piece. Let me grab another piece here. Let me run this. This was supposed to have been our leaf piece. No wonder it didn't look right. Let me run the piece that I put in the leaf fall embossing. So now we have that. So now we have that panel. That looks right. So we're going to adhere this panel. It's just easier to do it before you put that other panel on there. And you're going to also pull in your panels of your Wild Wheat Cardstock, and we're going to adhere that. We'll add it here, and then on the inside portion of the card. And the reason we're doing it on the inside portion is so that when the card is standing up, that frames the main panel on the front as such. So it would be so that you have it standing like so, then it just sort of finishes off that side. And as I said, I'm putting these just because I found it was easier to do this than trying to be careful with the front of the card as I was working. And then you can take and stamp on your interior panel whatever you would like. And I just decided to do the leaf down in the corner. Now we're going to pull in our panel here, which we will attach to this card, to this panel here. You want to make sure that there's no adhesive on this back side that, well, you can't see it. It would be where it goes on that side. You don't want because you want it to go as such. So we're lining it up at the corners, and when you're going to look and you're going to see. And if you don't want adhesive to go past that, you can always take a pencil and do a little mark. Or you can do as I'm going to do here, which is put the adhesive onto the panel that the card is going on. And we're going to align these two. You see, these two edges are lined up. And then what I like to do is I like to just take a bone folder and go over that to make sure it's adhered good. Now, we'll pull in our front panel of that Thoughtful Expressions designer paper that we texture embossed using the Leaf Fall embossing folder. You could also use the Changing Leaves, but I just thought it looked nicer to have that little bit smaller print behind the leaves. Of course, if you don't have that embossing folder, you could substitute it with any other embossing folder that you have. So now we have these lined up. So now it's time to have fun and add our leaves. So the first thing that I did was I added our largest leaf, and what I did is I've used stamping dimensionals just on the leaf part. I did not do it in this portion. I'm just doing it on these 3 leaves, and I'm going to add a little liquid adhesive on this the upper part of the stem just to hold it in place, because I wanted that portion to lay flat since I'm building on top of that. So we'll just lay this down, and it's okay if it overlaps on your left side, but I would not have it go across off on the right side, because that then will get damaged in the envelope. And I did do a little bit of surgery by snipping off some of that stem, because we're going to cover that. Then we're going to bring in our next leaf, and this I'm just using liquid adhesive. This is that designer paper that we texture embossed and cut in the, and it was the Thoughtful Expressions, and the color that I selected was the one that has the background of Pretty Peacock. So we're just going to lay this in here. Then we're going to come in with that same leaf, only in the one that we stamped. And let's see, did I did add dimensionals to it. It's been a couple weeks since I made this sample card, so I have to check to remember what I did. And there again, when I added, oops, look at that, Pretty Peacock. When I added that dimensional, I put it down a little because this will overlap onto the card. the left side of the card. Let me just tilt this a little bit more. And then the last leaf, I'm going to put our Calypso Coral leaf. There again, I'm using, as you see, the dimensionals, but not down for the lower portion, because that sentiment piece is going to hold that down. Okay, then last but not least, these were the pieces that were die cut using the dies. These open leaf dies, 2 of those were cut, and then that's of course out of that Calypso Coral panel that I talked about earlier. And then I just took my scissors and I just snipped them apart. And let's see, I think I can get, yes, it's easier if you just snip them apart. And we're going to find place where we want to put them. So I like to place them, and then I come back with adhesive and add a little bit touch of adhesive to that. And it's okay to do surgery on these. This one is still, there's also a small leaf. I think I cut 2 small leaves to put in there. Wait, let's see, how's this look? There, that will work. You just sort of play around with how you like. If you want to cut the leaves a little bit smaller, you can obviously do that. But as you see, I'm just putting a touch of glue at that base and sliding it in. I am going to cut this lower portion off of this so I can push that in a little bit further. Like so. We'll add our last leaf. We'll tuck it down in there. And I need to make sure, I'm going to cut that a little bit off. Cut through that glue. I've got to clean my scissors now after this. We'll just add a touch of glue. And we're just going to tuck that in there. It's hitting the dimensionals. So I may have to put it at a different angle. There it is. We'll put it at that angle. That worked. So now to bring in our sentiment, and As you notice, this stem is going to stick out, so I'm just going to cut that stem off, and I'm adding dimensionals to the back of our sentiment. And the last thing that we will do on this card is add a few of those opaque dots. Oops, I've got that too high. Let me pull that back down just a touch. Make sure I have this centered well. Okay, there. And the last thing is to pull back in those little gems, which I have moved and now I can't find. Does anyone else ever have that problem where you're doing things and you have to move something off to the side and it's one of the things that you're using? Oops, I put them under the ink pads. No wonder I couldn't see them. Thanks for your patience on that. So I'm going to use the Wild Wheat opaque dots, and I'm just going to place a couple of them around. I think I had put one up here at the top before. Let's see. I think one looks good down there this time. I've got enough going on at the top here. And then to complete our little triangle, we're just going to add another one right here, up in this area. How about so? That gives us a triangle. So there, we have completed our Changing Leaves Panel Z fold card. I hope that you've enjoyed following along and seeing how to assemble this card. As I said, all of the materials used and the cut dimensions are in the description of this video. And if you would, I would appreciate it if you would like this video. If you've not subscribed to my channel, please do so that you can follow along with other projects that I post. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.